Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a great day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your thumbs up. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. And today I'm talking about Black Americans and the fact that Black Americans have always been on the right side of history. And the reason I'm saying this is because I'm on TikTok a lot, as you know, and I hear young Black Americans arguing and going back and forth with Africans and Caribbeans and different ones about Black American history and Black American culture and why people focus on us and why people talk about us and why we can't just get along with people and why people can't just leave us alone. Well, we have always been on the right side of history. We, even in our weakest moment as slaves, they were still on the right side of history. They understood their predicament. They knew that they couldn't do anything about it. So they did what the Bible says. Philippians 4:11, the Apostle Paul writes, "Not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content." I'm not saying they were content. I'm saying that they understood the predicament that they were in and they worked gradually to get themselves out of it. They built bridges with the slave master and the slave mistress. And so, in the fullness of time, they were freed and they fought for their own freedom, and the white people did too. And this is something we have to keep saying. We have to stop leaving white people out of our history, even though some of us may not want to acknowledge them, because for every gap in our history, somebody else tries to work their way into it. They try to say that they were the ones that saved us. Black people saved themselves, but we did it strategically and we did it intellectually so that now we don't have to run like they have to. They have to run, first of all, because they don't have courage. And second of all, they don't know how to build bridges. Now, that war that's going on with Donald Trump and the Israelis and the Iranians, they don't know how to build bridges. The Iranians know how to build bridges, but the Americans and the Israelis don't. And that's where the problem is. They don't know how to build bridges. When you're in a bad situation, sometimes you have to build bridges because you can't always just pick up a gun or threaten somebody or bully somebody and get your way. So, Black Americans know this. And this is why people are fascinated with us. That's why they can't keep our names out their mouths because they're fascinated with us. At the same time, they're jealous, and at the same time, they're angry and any other thing you want to name. But at the bottom line, Black people have always been on the right side of history. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. People love to romanticize the founding fathers, but here's the truth. Black Americans were fighting for American ideals before America was willing to apply them. In the 1700s, free and enslaved Black people were filing petitions for freedom using the exact same language the colonies used against Britain: natural rights, liberty, and equality. Black soldiers fought in the Revolutionary War for a freedom they themselves were denied. They weren't fighting for nostalgia, they were fighting for a principle. From the beginning, Black Americans aligned with the idea of liberty, even when the practice excluded them. And that's us, fighting for liberty, even though that liberty excluded us. And here's the big deal. For over 2 centuries, Black Americans were the most consistent abolitionists in the country. They resisted through revolts, escapes, lawsuits, intellectual leadership, underground networks. and community organizing. They forced the nation to confront the contradiction between all men are created equal and the reality of human bondage, which is slavery. And here's the part that people skip: abolition wasn't a gift, it was a response to pressure. Pressure created by Black resistance. Black Americans weren't passive recipients of freedom, they were the engine of abolition. Black Americans escaped slavery and became abolitionists in the North, in Canada, and in England. Nobody went to the Caribbean and nobody went to Africa. They went to the northern United States, they went to Canada, and they went to England fighting against slavery. I'll say that again. They didn't go to the Caribbean and they didn't go to Africa. They went to the northern United States, they went to Canada, and they went to England. When the country split, North and South, Black Americans made the clearest moral choice of any group. Nearly 200,000 Black men joined the Union Army. They don't tell that in just American history. They just make it seem like it was only white people, but nearly 200,000 Black men joined the Union Army. Their participation shifted the war's outcome and accelerated emancipation. Black people fought for their own freedom, not the Haitians, not the Jamaicans. Black people, Black Americans fought for their own freedom. They fought to preserve the Union and end slavery. The two outcomes, historians now agree, were the moral center of the conflict. Black Americans didn't just fight in the Civil War, they fought for the version of America that would eventually become possible. Black people did that. Nearly 200,000 Black men, but Black women also joined the Union Army. So let's just be clear about that. The women did their part too, not what the men did, but they did their part. After the Civil War, for 12 years, we had what is called Reconstruction, and it is the chapter that exposes the pattern of Black Americans most clearly. Black Americans built public schools, held elected office, drafted new state constitutions, established civic institutions, and pushed for equal protection under the law. They attempted the first true multiracial democracy in American history. Now, these immigrants come over here and they get elected to office, or they do this, or they do that, and they think they're the first ones that think they're doing something. They are not doing anything in this country that Black people haven't already done. White supremacist backlash, however, dismantled Reconstruction. Not because it failed, but because it worked. Because Black people were showing what they were capable of doing, and the white people said, we've got to turn this back as close to slavery as we can. And that's what they did. And that's when Jim Crow started. So even under Jim Crow and segregation, Black Americans organized the movements that reshaped this nation. The NAACP's legal strategy dismantled segregation. The civil rights movement expanded voting rights, public accommodations, and constitutional protections. And here's the part people forget: every group that gained rights after the civil rights movement, women, immigrants, LGBTQ communities, disabled communities, benefited from the legal and moral groundwork laid by Black activism. Black Americans forced the United States to honor its Constitution, not just quote it. Now, all these immigrants come over here, the LGBT people, the women, the disabled, all of these people are covered under civil rights. if it was not for Black people reshaping this nation, they wouldn't even have the rights that they have, even as they try to disparage us. And today's Black people demand equal protection, challenge state outreach, push for transparency, and call for institutional accountability. Whether people agree with every tactic or not, the underlying value, fairness, due process, constitutional rights align with democratic evolution. Black Americans remain the group most consistently pushing the United States towards its own stated ideals. So, Black Americans have been the moral compass of the nation, not because of sentiment, but because the historical records show a consistent alignment with the expansion of human rights. Every time America had to choose between its fears and its ideals, Black Americans chose the ideals, and the country is still catching up. We're not cowards. We're not scared. And that is why we should never engage an immigrant with an argument, because they haven't earned the right to argue with us. And everything mentioned in this video is documented American history. Feel free to check it out. All right, y'all, let me know what you think about the video and have a good evening.